Let me introduce to you a friend of mine. This is Bear, B-E-H-R. At about 10 weeks old, he walks into the Veterans Hospital here in town, and they take him across the street to the animal hospital, and that's how we get hold of him. He had no tags, he had no chip, he had nothing. Come here. There you go. Now, when we first got him, I could not put my hand close to his face because he would end up trying to bite it. Come here, get closer. There you go. Sit, sit, sit. Yeah, they're there, aren't they? Now we can do just about anything we want to. And he loves us. He's very loyal to us. But it took a long time before we could get him to do those things because we think he had been abused. It took lots of months, really, of showing him how safe we were. We're going to continue to talk about trust today. And keep this in mind because trust sometimes takes a lot of time and a lot of patience. And it depends on if sometimes people come into your life that might have had some traumatic things take place in their life as well. So let's talk more about trust. In each one of us, we carry around a type of emotional bank account. And it works just like a regular bank account. We put credits in, we take withdrawals out. Depending upon how well you treat me, you may treat me as though I am valuable and vulnerable and precious, then that's going to be a great credit. If for some reason you treat me as though I'm not, then that's going to be a withdrawal. Violations or the extent of the violation is going to determine how much of a withdrawal it is, and also how long it's going to take in order to build that back up again. There's been a lot of discussion about how much it takes to put back into that emotional bank account if there has been a withdrawal. And the reality is it depends upon the withdrawal. If I say something cross to my wife and I have basically a pretty good bank account with her, then it's going to be a minor withdrawal and it's going to be quickly credited back into my account as I show her that I'm not going to be doing that anymore. If for some reason I were to start taking credit cards and charging them to the fullest and not telling her about it, then it were to come out, that would be a huge violation. And it would take a long time for us to begin to credit that account back to where it would be where it was before that violation. So there are three basic ways to build trust. And we're going to find out by looking at these, you can also lose trust through it. The first one is predictability. How predictable are you? Can we count on you? Are you going to do what you say you're going to do? Are you going to be where you say you're going to be? Are you always late? Do you forget to do things over and over and over again? Do you have a tendency to procrastinate? Put things in the back burner and never get to them, even though you tell me you're going to. This also goes with whether or not you can control your emotions. I have lots of clients who come in and they tell stories about they never knew who was going to show up at their house. They would stay outside, they'd listen before they'd come into the front room after school, and they'd say, I wonder if crazy mom was here today or happy mom was here. Or whenever they hear the car pull up in the driveway, they would begin to wonder, okay, here comes dad. I wonder what kind of mood he's in. That kind of mood, again, is going to determine if their world is safe. And if it's so unpredictable, their world isn't going to feel safe. They don't know who to trust. You know, I walked around for years with this kind of angst inside of me, as one person identified. good friend of mine said, Wib, it seems like you always have this angst in you. And I did not know where it came from for years until I stopped. Probably within the last 5 years, I stopped and considered growing up. And I realized I was always in a fight. And it wasn't just one person against Wib, it was always two people against Wib, whether it was in the playground or out in my front yard or in the basement or whatever the case is. If I was with some friends or not so friends, we would get in a fight, and it seemed like it was happening a lot, especially during grade school. And that developed a mindset inside of me that said, my world's not safe, especially when it came to one fight in particular where my dad saw that two guys had beat up on me, and he basically would not allow me to come back into the house. He said, no, you find them alone and you take care of them. And the message I got was, well, you're on your own. You're on your own. I'm not here for you. And to carry that around was helping me realize my world was not predictable. It was not safe, and a little anxiety was constantly there. Another way of either building or not building trust is to be open. Be transparent, full disclosure, no secrets, no secret emails, no secret communications, no secret credit cards, full disclosure, not waiting necessarily for the other person to ask the right question. Imagine for a second that you are out eating someplace and you're with some friends, and somebody of the opposite sex sits down with you and you guys have a good conversation, and then you go home and your partner just says, well, how was your day? And you say, it was fine. And then you don't say anything about this person of the opposite sex sitting at the same table with you having a conversation. And then your partner finds out about it. Well, what's that going to say? What are you hiding? Why wouldn't you tell me? And no matter what you were doing, the fact that you weren't open, you weren't transparent, is going to be a withdrawal from that account. This is where I had, imagine for a second, a husband and wife sitting on my couch. It's happened so many times. And the man had had an affair, and the woman says, okay, here's what I need in order to build trust because of the affair. And she says, I need to know where you are. I want to see your emails when they come out, and I want to have access to your phone. And he says, I'll do all of them except that last. And she says, you're not going to let me see your phone? He says, no, I'm not going to let you see that. Now, and then I turn around and I tell my clients who say that, I said, then you'll never rebuild trust. Because when you're going to be open, you're going to be open. There's a concept out there right now called micro cheating. And that is where you are in communication, usually through social media of some sort, with an old flame from earlier years in your life, and you're not telling your spouse. You're not telling your partner in any way. It's called micro cheating. And that's one of the reasons why affairs are running rampant, because those begin to take place, and before they know it, they are in that relationship again, doing things that normally they wouldn't do. All because they weren't being open. And without openness, you're not going to be able to build trust. The other one is, the third one is what's called fairness. And fairness is where you're looking for a balanced give and take in the relationship. When you have a relationship, you expect some things from the other person. You feel entitled. Maybe you're entitled for them to be truthful, honest. That's part of openness, that you want them to be honest, open. Maybe you want to have conversations. In marriages, there is this fairness of feeling like it's an equitable relationship. You're giving as much as you are receiving in the relationship. Maybe nurturing each other. mutual initiation of contact, that you're not just waiting on the other person to ask to get together or to do things together or to have conversations, whatever the case is, that both parties are able to initiate that. You're willing to share responsibilities in this relationship. So if it feels fair, if it's a give and take, then trust is going to be there. I've been in relationships with guys who I was the one who did all the initiating. I was the one who did all the contact. And even though they loved it and they wanted to be with us, we wanted to kick around and do things, it didn't feel fair. And so in some regards, I didn't trust to a degree that person that was in my life. I didn't trust him to as regards to putting deposits in my account. So when we build trust, sometimes it takes a long time. Imagine for a second, you hear a friend of yours and he comes to you and he says, you know, I've been beating my wife for 10 years. And, but I've been really good for the last couple months. And she still doesn't trust me. I don't understand that. Well, I've had a number of conversations like that. And I know that I would say something like, now, how long have you been beating your wife? Well, I've been beating her for 10 years. Okay. And how often would you do that? Oh, once a month. And then once a month for 10 years, you would beat your wife. And how badly would you beat her, as if it really matters? And he would tell me, and yeah, that's really bad. That's really bad. And so let me get this right. You've been beating your spouse for 10 years, once a month. That means you cold-cocked her 120 times over 10 years. And now you're saying that after 2 months, you can't understand why she doesn't trust you? Really? Or the wife who is constantly cheating, and all of a sudden she gets the message and she doesn't want to leave the relationship. She doesn't want to ruin it. She doesn't want it to quit. And so she says, I'm sorry. I'll straighten up. And then after 6 months or 7 months, and he is still really iffy on whether he can trust her, and she can't understand that, even though they've been married 20 years and she's had 4 affairs. Folks, it takes a long time to develop trust. Like my dad said, it can be a lifetime of building it up and only a moment to lose. For those of you who are in relationships and trust is being rebuilt, and let's say you have been the violator, there is a wall that probably was built between you and the other relationship, the other person in the relationship. Now, it's their wall. You might have done things that caused them to build this wall because all of a sudden you became very unsafe. It's their wall. You can't go over and beat it down. So what do? Well, you can't walk away from it, because that would just basically say you don't care about the relationship. You can't beat it down. What you got to do is, on your side of the wall, you need to build the most beautiful, luscious, most inviting garden on your side of the wall. You become the person. You demonstrate in all ways and all fashion that you are trustworthy. You are predictable. You are open. You are seeking fairness. Now, what's going to happen is the person whose wall there is, that person's going to maybe sense that something's different on the other side of the wall. They may take a brick out and look through it and then put the brick back in. They may go over and play on your side of the wall and then hurry back to their side of the wall where they feel safe again. Your job is only to build that garden so that they can prove, or you can prove, that the change that is taking place is legit. I have talked to so many people who have been hurt where the violation of trust has taken place, and all of a sudden their partner says, okay, or the relationship, the other part of the relationship says, okay, I'm straightening up and I'm doing all things different now. And the person who was violated will stop and say, I still don't trust you. And that other person can't quite figure it out. It's going to take some time. And one of the things that they're concerned with is, if all of a sudden I start trusting you, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back to the same way of doing things? You know, that's one of the things that I hear a lot, and this comes from men especially, that their wives are asking them to be open. And so the men are saying, if I am going to be open with you, what are you going to do with it? Can I trust you to treat the information that I'm going to give you with confidentiality? Or are you going to share it with your family? Are you going to share it with your girlfriends? I hear that all the time. I hear the other thing as well, like I just said, now you're making changes. Now you're changing some things. Well, what's going to happen if all of a sudden I start receiving you back in and trusting you again? All you're going to do is go back to the same old way of behaving again. It takes time. Imagine for a second that as you are trying to build trust, take this little analogy of a dog that's in the corner and it's been abused. And maybe you are now adopting this dog. It came with abuse, but also maybe you have been an abuser of this dog. Now, you want this dog now to all of a sudden realize that you are trustworthy and everything's going to be okay. So what are you going to do? Are you going to run towards the dog and say, you got to trust me, get out of that corner? Well, I'll guarantee you that dog's going to do one of two things. He's either going to pee in the corner or he's going to come out biting. So what are you going to do? Well, again, you, in the presence of that dog, be as safe, be as trustworthy as you possibly can be. And what you're going to find out is you talk, how you talk, your actions, everything about you is going to demonstrate how safe you are. And that dog eventually is going to start coming out very, very slowly. And then what you do is you allow that dog to come to you. You don't pull the dog out of the corner. And what's really sad sometimes is that if I have a dog like that, that's been abused, sometimes if I just go up and scratch my head, he's already running back to the corner because he's already seeing signs that had alerted him in the past that abuse was coming. If that happens, then I just got to go, okay, I kind of scared him. I'm going to have to be careful of that. And I'm going to go back to being the trustworthy, safe person that I want to be. And eventually, that dog's going to come out of the corner. And eventually, even further, he's going to realize I can relax. I can trust with this new person. The offender must be patient, guys. That's the one thing I want you to realize. And the more cooperative you are, the more understanding, the more defensive, non-defensive you are as the offender, the quicker the offended can rebuild that trust. So, trust. It only takes a moment to lose and a lifetime to build. But it can build. Regardless of the violation, trust can be rebuilt. So I thank you for listening to this video. Thank you, and I hope that you will subscribe right now to this channel and stay tuned to other videos like this. And I would love to hear from you if there is a topic regarding relationships or life in general that you'd like for me to address. So let me know. Email me at wib@newhoperesources.com. Visit my website as well at New Hope Resources. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening.